Non-interference. Yeah, just coach, you get away with what you can, right? Thanks so much to Greg Moore for being here today. Next up for us is someone that has really coached at just about every single level of the game. He played college hockey at the University of Wisconsin, helped the Badgers win a national title quite a few years ago now. Had a couple of years of pro hockey and then has gone on. He's coached in the USHL. He was a head coach at the National Team Development Program for a number of years, coached Division I men's ice hockey in the ECHL, the American League, and certainly at the highest level of the game in the National Hockey League. He's been on our national team staff, and it's a great pleasure to welcome to the stage Coach Don Granato. Donnie!
Thank you, Fish. Thank everybody here. As I get set up. A great job by Greg Moore. I had the privilege and pleasure of working with Moorzy. Moorzy did a spectacular job as an assistant coach. Good? Okay. Yeah. So it's great to follow up Greg. Love that presentation. While he's doing that presentation, Mance is giving me a hard time back there because I'm on my computer watching clips of one of the teams I was with at the national team program. And that's where Greg and I worked together. And I had a couple of clips on my computer. I didn't have them to show you today. And Mance comes up to me and goes, "Hey, your preparation is done. Your presentation's now." And but Moorzy's clips compelled me to watch a couple of clips on my computer up there. And I thought of showing them to you. I won't. I'm going to stick with my game plan. But it got me excited, the stuff that he showed there and the concepts. And I'll get into that in a minute as we go through or through the presentation. But it's great to be here. It's an honor anytime you get a call from USA Hockey. It certainly was as a player. And as a coach, it's an amazing feeling when you take those phone calls and they ask you to do something. I've done this a few times, spoken to this group at level 5, really enjoyed it. I speak to players all the time and spoke to a lot of our U15, 16 and 17 select camps because they had it in Buffalo where I was for a few years. And it's always enjoyable to talk hockey. I came in a couple days ago just to get the vibe and the feel for this as you know, you have so much content as a coach. Ryan Warsofsky mentioned yesterday or the day before that he takes notes and he catalogs notes and he tracks them in the summertime. He's going through them. I've done that for 30 years, so I love hearing that, and it's helped me. You have to reflect on anything you do, especially things you want to succeed at. And so when Bob Mancini called me over the summer, I said, "Man, I'd love to do it. What topic? What do you want me to talk on?" Because my brain is on like 50 different topics every day as I go through my coaching notes. And he didn't give me an answer. And then he called about a week ago. He says, hey, what's your presentation?" And I said, "I have no idea, Mance, because you didn't tell me." So I said, the title of it is My Experiences as a Player and as a Coach. I thought it was appropriate only because I didn't know what topic to pick, and he didn't give me one. And I'm going through coaching notes every day. I'll just pluck out notes that I think are relative to this group or things that I experienced that I could share with the group. So that's the premise of what I'm going to go through here. And I'll reference some of the guys that spoke here. Watching and listening to the presenters, they have certain topics, but you can tell there's so much depth to what they're presenting. Incredible depth. Hours and hours of scouring and talking. They mentioned how much they've learned through their careers. And there's little nuggets in there that you could go so deeper on. You could have a complete lecture on or complete discussion on. So I tried to consider what some of the things they mentioned. And Greg, his whole topic pretty much covered concepts of game as compared to systems of the game. And I'll expand on that in a moment. But I try to look at that over the last couple of days and talk to people in the room and piece this together. So I really did just piece it together and try to synthesize something for this morning. I'm pretty good, I should say, who knows if I'm good, right? But I tell you, I'm comfortable, very comfortable you play 82 games in an NHL season, you're playing in one city one night, maybe it's Boston, and you're getting on a plane and getting into Carolina at 1 in the morning to play them literally the next day, and you're watching hundreds of clips and 2 different systems, 2 different teams and where they're at, and your team's tired, and you've got all these clips, and you've got to synthesize everything. What can we do tonight against the Carolina Hurricane? And we know we're going to be a little tired. Where might they be vulnerable? And you have 3 minutes and 12 clips to show your team. And I'm very comfortable doing that. This, I'm not so comfortable because I can complete scatterbrain of nearly 5,000 coaching notes in a computer trying to pluck them out. So hang in there with me and write down your questions or hold your questions, and hopefully I can gear it more toward what you guys want it out of this when I conclude it. So I'm going to try to go along move along as fast as I can. Some of this stuff, as I said, spoke to a lot of players, and I spoke to this group. It's relevant. Mance and some of the guys asked me to go over, touch on some of the stuff again. It's repetitive. I think it's online somewhere, so I'll move through some of that quick. So the title again, my experiences in coaching and playing. Just a review of my personal notes. The landscape. So at the bottom of that screen, I put landscape. Players are landscape. Coaches were coaches, and coaching. So it's all of those 3 entities. First note I plucked out. I think I did it yesterday. Just right up top. Upon reflection. This is a personal note I had. How have I learned what I know? Mostly I've learned through people and others. That's for sure. For sure. Starting with my parents as a kid. When I make a decision, I've tried to reflect, okay, why am I acting that way? Why am I frustrated? And learn how I become what I become. And it's through a lot of help. The good, I can tell you, is through a lot of help from other people, opportunities they've given me, and obviously experiences they've given me. Fish just mentioned I've been part of national teams. I went to the national, Jimmy Johansson called, asked if I wanted to go coach at the national team program I was for 5 years. People gave me opportunities. Now I worked for it, but they gave them to me. And I'm very well aware of that and appreciative of that, and it's helped me become better. So obtaining this knowledge, and get to the green print there, it's all great, but it's also completely useless. And I think a lot of coaches touched on this. Completely useless to those we hope to lead unless we can connect with them, right? We have to connect to the ones we hope to coach and lead. So everything I know, who cares? That probably, my credibility going into my next job, I might get my next job because of credibility in the past. But when I walk in that locker room, those players don't care what I did or where I was. I have to be able, and we have to be able to relate to them. And that's every day with every team we coach. So that takes a lot of effort, and the effort is, and the coaches have said it here over the week, is really to get to understand others, the players, their concerns, their needs, where they're at, you know, their psychological space where it's at. That is extremely important. And that is, you can't operate what we do as a coach or a leader. And leadership has changed. We all know that. You know, a leader 20 years ago, you had a hammer. You don't have that hammer anymore. It's an influence game. And I'll get into that. We're trying to influence our players in positive directions every day. And we're fighting currents. Maybe they're influencing them in an opposite direction. And that's a battle that we have to fight every day. And you become better at it. I love this. Every time I see one of these Rubik's Cubes, I think of coaching. And from the perspective, I can turn this thing and I can get one side. And I'm like, this is great. I got one side fixed. And it's like coaching. You fix something and you turn your attention somewhere else and you spin it the other way and you turn around and you screwed up the whole other side. And that's coaching. It's a little bit of life. But our jobs are, and you get better at it over your career, it comes down to efficiency and effectiveness. And to know that this thing can be solved in 20 moves, that's pretty efficient, pretty effective. I don't know how to do it, but I know the harder we work at coaching, the more efficient and more effective we're going to become. And that's really the quest, and that never ends as we take on players from generation to generation. And it is, again, it's survival in the NHL, absolute survival. You have no time, you have very little time to recover, and you're dealing with crisis management on all fronts behind the scenes. So you need to be efficient and effective. And part of it is understanding where it's seeing red flags as they pop up, like immediately when they pop up. So This screenshot I've used a lot. I love it because so much this weekend was thrown at you. It was honestly thrown at me. I sat up there and I wasn't texting. I was actually taking notes from the coaches that spoke. And at some point, you got to take all of this notes and all of this new knowledge and new thought, and you got to put it. You got to get a focus. You have to get a focus, and that is a challenge. And the coaches, Ryan Rosofsky said it when he went into San Jose. He said it when he went into Worlds this year. Right away, day one, simply what's our message? And keep it very simple. What you have as a head coach, you don't necessarily have this as an assistant. I love this as a head coach. You have the opportunity every day to set the tone. Blash is going to set the tone day one of Chicago Blackhawks training camp. He's already started the work for that. But that day one, that first meeting, you can see, you can feel it in him when he's standing up here. Ryan Rosofsky, you can tell that when he went to Men's Worlds, he knew he had to set a tone immediately. He worked on it, he planned it, he talked to his coaches. We're going to set a tone. We are going to work to control the narrative. I say work to control it because you're only with your guys so many minutes a day. There's hours, 20 hours, 23 hours the rest of the day where other people are trying to push their own narrative to that player. Maybe the player agent, maybe the player parent, maybe the media. But every day as a head coach, you go in that locker room for a 3, 5, 10-minute meeting, you can show clips, you can present what you want to present, put in front of them, you have a chance to get that narrative back. That is something you have as a continual opportunity that you have to use. It was big for me. These two things were huge for me. I can remember being not nervous, but I got a call early in the morning. Do you want to take over the Buffalo Sabres as the head coach? And it's going to be an interim job. And I thought, you don't say no to that. And I thought, boy, that's the first thing I had to do. Set a tone, create a narrative. We were in the middle of an 18-game losing streak. I got to swing this narrative. We're not playing victims here. This isn't bad, because it could get worse. We think it's bad. We're throwing a little bit of a pity party. So I wasn't bringing the balloons. And you could set that narrative. It was our narrative. It was going to be the coach's narrative against the media's narrative, against the community's narrative at that time, but we had a chance every day to set that. And that's what we do as coaches. In the grayish, bluish down there, we are in the influence business, as I mentioned earlier. Okay? We're all influenced by everybody. You could be influenced by the person you sit with and what they're doing now or did a few minutes. We're all influenced. Everybody influences everybody. And you have to recognize that as a coach, and we want to influence our players. How do we want to influence our players? Hopefully in a real positive way, in a challenging way, in a way that they're excited. I always challenge my coaching staff. When they come to the rink tomorrow morning, I want them excited when they're in the car on the way to the rink. Because people go to work every day. It's monotony. Sometimes it's worse than monotony. You don't want to go to work. You dread something at work. Well, our goal always as a coaching staff, and I press our coaches, is I want our guys, when they get in that car to come to the rink, they're excited to come to that rink. Because if we can get them that way, we can push them. And I'll get into that a little bit. So coaching, what's our job and responsibilities? Just some quick bullet points. And we could go into lots of depth, but for me, just real quick, protecting the team. Accountability. Your players want you to hold accountability, hold a standard for your team. They look at you for that, and that's a whole other topic in itself. But the other part of your job is, big part of your job is ensuring success. Now, sometimes that can get very confused with winning. It's not. They're separate. Success is far more important and more winning results with success. So it's progressing your team, getting it better every day. In life, we know if you're not getting better, you get worse. So focus on making your team better. Assess where it is, accept where it is today. I'd love to coach the Florida Panthers. So would 29 other coaches. Paul Maurice would have loved to coach him for 25 years. He didn't. But he is now. He was, as the other coaches said, love where you're at. Be where your shoes are. So, assess where you're at today and make sure you're moving forward. You're progressing that team. Don't wish you were something else or wish you were somewhere else. And really, for for lack of, our ass is on the line for winning, a lot. We want to win because we want to move up. We want to win because there's perks in winning, right? But really our job and our focus should be on increasing our chances to win. That keeps you working every day. How can we increase our chances to win? And so for me, these are three bullet points, just going through my notes, that I think are important, wanted to obviously share with you. You're consistently evaluating. And when you evaluate, and I'll go through the cycle of what happens on the next slide here. What happens, you're continually evaluating, and then you're going to make a decision on the evaluation. We lacked this tonight in this game, so tomorrow we're going to do this in practice. Every time you evaluate with your coaching staff and your general manager, or your parental group, or your team manager, or wherever it may be in the teams you have to realign. One of the questions that Greg had to answer was, is your staff aligned? If you have an assistant coach that has a different opinion, you can have alignment at the start of the year, or you can have alignment at the start of the day, but every decision that's made, everything that happens, you're going to have to realign and get aligned back up. And that never stops in coaching. That's why it's really important to have incredible relationships within your team, in the management level and coaching level. And I can tell you, I had that in pretty much every job I was in, so I'm grateful for that. And again, be conscious of your decisions. So this is that process thing that I was mentioning. We're in this, that focus thing that I talked about, what's going on, there's so much going on. Every day it's the same process, especially when you get into the season, okay? It's just a cycle of a process. There's a game, which on the outside here in the blue is your performance. I want our players to be instinctive in that game. I don't want them overthinking things. I want them to go. I want animal instinct, aggressive behavior, and I support it. If it's a bad penalty, it's a bad penalty, but I love the energy. You need that. After the game, you see the analysis. You analyze what just happened. You take what just happened and you present it to the team the next day, and discuss it with your general manager and your staff. It's at the conscious level. Now you're going to figure out, how do we get what we need to fix here or progress that to the subconscious level. And that's drilling it, moving it, pushing it, but it's got to be to the subconscious level and get there. The faster the better, obviously, because when you get to the next game, you want it to be instinctive. And that's your cycle. And the next game, you analyze it again. And it's over and over. And that's your process that you're involved in every single day. And down in the red there, it's game execution, post-game analysis, and then your video meeting, your game planning, your strategy, and then your practices and repetition, over and over and over. Again, back to simplified, back to getting a focus. Our system objectives, first and foremost, set a tone with your team, start a training camp, give them a visual. We do simple things, and we do them well, and we do them consistently well. If I have a team in a training camp, I want them to know, when we talk about systems right now, we're going to do some things that are very simple, and we're going to do them well, and we're going to do them consistently. And every day you can present a clip or two of how this was a simple thing. Here's where we did it really well, outstanding job. Here's where we need to be better. Here's where consistency dropped, and we gave up a chance because of it. So that, for me, that's a real, it brings a focus right in, right away, boom. It's very, again, simple, direct, consistent. And our mentality, I think you gotta have a mentality with this. And for me, just something simple, I just plucked this out. I probably could have plucked 10 different ones out, but just disrupt and frustrate. Disrupt and frustrate. Make it hard. Lots of NHL games, the Florida Panthers frustrated the hell out of the Edmonton Oilers. They did it the series before with Carolina, right? They frustrate, disrupt, and when they do, they look like world beaters. And the other team is the other team doesn't look like themselves anymore. And now it's game on. It's a pretty game of hockey after that. But there's that grind factor to it of wearing the other team down physically, wearing them down psychologically. So I want our guys to have a mentality like that. How hard can you push a guy? So again, just plucking out coaching notes. Well, what's his capacity to be pushed? I mean, I look at 20 guys and, Tage Thompson, I could push really, really hard. Another guy, if I pushed him like I pushed Tage Thompson, I'd bury the guy. He'd be buried. And you have to know that with each player. At the same time, you're saying, okay, that player that I'm having a hard time pushing, I'd like to push him a lot harder. How do I get it so I can push him harder? And if you think about that and you look at that player, there's ways you can do that. And you gotta work to that. So to me, how much can they handle and how do you help them handle more in the future? And how can you get it so you can push them harder in the future? And you're kind of working on that through your whole locker room. If you have great leadership in your room and great experience, that task is a hell of a lot easier. You could have one guy gets traded to the Florida Panthers. He's going to fall in line a lot quicker. He's got more support around him than if he went to a team that doesn't have as much depth, talent, and experience in the NHL. It's just a different work environment. And it's the same with your team. You coach the team that you have. If you clearly have a very young team at the Pee Wee level and you're playing, a very loaded team, skill-wise and experienced team that's a year older than you, accept it. That's the circumstances. And you're coaching within those parameters. I'm not telling you you can't push your guys. I'm not telling you you shouldn't expect to win, but maybe different ways than you would like to. So you certainly won't be able to impose your will on them as you may want. So moving on to kind of those we're coaching a little bit. And this is some redundant stuff to stuff I've presented over the past. Opportunity. In youth hockey, parents pay, they expect you to play the player, and they get opportunity. The biggest change, and one of the presenters mentioned it, is when you move out of and you start getting paid. Somebody's paying you now. You've signed that contract with a pro team. That's what they owed you, what's on that paper. They do not owe you ice time, and they do not owe you opportunity. And that is a paradigm shift. That is a massive shift for players. That is a really hard shift for players, mentally. And they don't even understand that as a concept. What do you mean I don't have opportunity? I had guys in the NHL all the time, young players, not understanding why they didn't get this much ice time or didn't get this spot on the power play or things like that. And you have to realize, players have to realize if they want to be successful, you hope for opportunity. Somebody's going to give you an opportunity. And I'll expand on it later, but you have to be ready for that. You have to develop enough to know, you have the knowledge, skill to seize the opportunity. NHL, why is it hard for these players? And this is more speaking to our U17, 16, and 15 kids at Buffalo at the camp, our national team program kids when I had them. Why is it so hard to make the NHL? Kids today, they're all in their birth year. They're in their birth year. This is where I fit. They know exactly where they fit in their birth year. They know everybody in their birth year. And it's sort of like their confidence is, I know where I am. But when you try to get to the NHL, I tell the kids, there's 23 to 25 birth years. It's not just the birth year you were in. And they're from all over the world, not just kids in the United States or North America. So it's much harder. But there's a fixed number of roster spots. There's 32 teams, 23 roster spots. There's 736 players. And there's probably 690 of them or 50 of them that are returning from last year. So there's just not many new roster spots. And that's a big difference. So again, redundant, but I'll skip over it. If we did a look at the draft, okay? And this is an old slide, tells you how long I've been presenting. But looking at the draft from 2000 to 2010, astonishingly, there are 1,362 players that were drafted in those 8 years that never played a single game in the NHL. So you think about it, those kids were drafted, and there's so many different things I could talk about in that. But they were drafted, 1,362. Think about that draft day. I say that the draft is a trophy. You just got a trophy because you developed enough skill that an NHL team said, he's got enough skill, we're going to draft him. Go put that trophy on your trophy case, it's done, it's over, move on. Because there's no value beyond that. You've got to put a lot more work in. But 1,362 didn't play, a lot of it because there's just not roster spots for them. And another 193 played under 10 games. So if you think you're going to be happy to make the NHL, you will be, but you didn't make it because you only played 10 games. You're probably not going to be too happy. So a lot of disappointed players in that pool. One other thing that I'll touch on as we go to the next slides is put yourself in that player's position. You're at the draft and you're drafted. How exciting is that? You probably have family. You have family members there, mom, dad. You might have extended family, relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever, and they're all excited. Oh my God, you were drafted by the Boston Bruins. This is so exciting, and it is. But now that puts pressure on that player because everybody expects you're drafted by them, you're going to play for them. And you really see players when they come to the NHL level, they were drafted 3-4 years ago. They were one of the better players on their college team or better players in their junior team. That's why we signed them. And now they get to the NHL, and they're not one of the better players. They're struggling with everything. Like the antidote to their skill is there. And size, strength, they're nowhere near it. And these guys, they get sent to the minors. It's a real blow to their self-esteem. Because I can tell you when they're drafted, their parents aren't saying, this is great. Do you know you're going to play in the American League? They're not. It's not happening. My God, this is unbelievable. You're going to play 150 games in the American League. And maybe you'll make the NHL. Because that's the reality of it. So that doesn't even cross their mind. But yet that's the battle they're going to have to fight. I can't tell you how many coaches or players I had in the American League that couldn't handle that battle. They had enough skill to play in the NHL. But they didn't have enough mental capacity to deal with that fact. They're in the American Hockey League. They were humbled beyond, it affected their confidence. And when they get sent to the American League, it's like paralysis for them. They don't realize it, but they're not working anymore. They're throwing their own pity party. And not like they're trying to, they're down, they're out, they're trying to figure out just what happened. And their buddy, maybe that they scored 15 more points than, was drafted by one of the worst teams in the NHL, and he's actually up playing in the NHL. And you know you're better than him. But he got the opportunity because he was signed by another organization that actually needed a right winger, because they had none. You're a right winger too that completely outplayed it through college or junior. But unfortunately, you were drafted by the Florida Panthers, and they don't need you right now. And you got to deal with those things. So that's a reality that happens. American Hockey League, again, I spent, I don't know how many, 7-8 years as a coach there. So this is a quick look, I presented this to players, of the Islanders roster a couple years ago, 4 years ago, Game 6 against Tampa Bay in the playoffs, okay? So here was the lineup, obviously on the left, healthy scratches on the right there. And as I showed the players, the kids, this U15, 16, and 17s, I said, this is how many years these guys on this roster have been in the league. And Barzal up top, at the center there, he'd been in the league at five years in the year 2021. I told the kids, you know what? He's going to be in the league for another 10 years. So you're not getting Matty Barzal's spot if you're drafted by the New York Islanders. You're not getting it. He's got it. So you're probably not getting a spot on the power play either. So you're going to have to start dealing with this and preparing for it. The other thing is, you know, you can see first rounders in the NHL. It's a bonus. It's a big thing. It's a big thing for USA Hockey to get. The start of the national team program was really, really important. I've been with NHL teams for 25 years or more now, in and out, and worked for 5 or 6 different NHL teams. In the 80s and 90s, I grew up in Chicago. I never dreamt of playing in the National Hockey League. I didn't think Americans could play in the National Hockey League. I didn't even realize they could play. It was all Canadians. And what USA Hockey's done, credit to them in the national team program, is they've made our player, they've given him credibility. They took our U17 teams and put them head to head, started the national team program, and showed all the Canadian management in the NHL that kept drafted players from where they played hockey in major junior, gave them more credit. We could go and beat them head to head. And they're like, we got a lot of pride in our country, but we actually have more pride in trying to win in the NHL. And these kids from America are pretty damn good. Billy Guerin, Keith Kachuk, on and on. And so our credibility moved up. And what's really important, you see it in this grid here. If you get drafted in the first round, and there's pressure now on that organization, they've invested a first round pick in you. They have a vested interest. I don't know that there's too many general managers or organizations that take the heat when a second round pick doesn't make the NHL. I mean, they're not going to ask, hey, your third round pick hasn't made the NHL. But if your first round pick doesn't make the NHL, there's a lot of heat on you as an organization because it's a big investment. So those guys are going to get more games, more time, more love, more opportunity. They might get 50 games for free. But you know what happens? The next NHL team says, this guy's got 50 games of NHL experience. He was a first round pick. Maybe I will take that player. Because he's got 50 games of experience. So they get more lives. So moving up in the draft is significant in this regard. And I'll get into how you move up in the draft in a slide or two. But you can see how many first round picks in this grid. The other thing is how many of these guys played in the American Hockey League. Incredible how many played. So look at how many first round picks had to play in the American Hockey League. Again, it's a big psychological boost. Now Tampa, I think Blash touched on it, and this is an old slide. Your bottom 6 players, you got to be reliable. We talked about Kucherov and Clendening. Kucherov, top 6 player, he can take some risks, make some mistakes. He's going to get his ice time. Bottom 6, you better know what the hell you're doing because you're not going out there if you make a mistake. I'll try to zip through this. This is just look at skill level. So back to how you get this opportunity in various skill levels. So you have that much skill as a youth hockey player, say that much acquired skill to play in the USHL or college hockey. You need more skill to be drafted, play in the AHL, and obviously you need this much skill to play in the NHL. Okay, so skill is really important. You're not going to be drafted, or you're not going to go sign a guy at the next level. You're evaluating somebody at the level below and say, oh my God, we have to draft this guy. You should see how good he is at systems. I've never seen a guy this good at systems. Not a chance. So stop worrying about coaching systems. The kid is never going to move up. Every system and any system you want to run will run better with skill. So when I moved into the position of the Buffalo Sabres, I had a system I wanted to run, but I knew damn well we needed more skill. It's going to run better with more skill. Look at every Stanley Cup winning coach. They won a cup or 2 or 3, and they've been in the league for 20 years. 17 years they ran the same system. I guarantee it, within like 2%. And they didn't win. Why? They didn't have the skill they had when they won the cup. Simple. So the emphasis should always be on skill for many other reasons, but there's a few quick ones for you there. And then obviously the intangibles, and I won't go into that, it's grit, all those things, but it's concepts of the game too. It's knowing the game, it's situational awareness. So those are big. I'm going to skip past this, but this is just quick how coaches make decisions. Alex Ovechkin, $9.5 million. Jay Beagle made $900,000, 1/10 the amount of money, but it was a playoff game. And the coach decided to play Jay Beagle 20 minutes and Alex Ovechkin, young Alex Ovechkin, 13 minutes. It's pretty simple. They were up by 1 goal, and he said, Alex, I can't trust you on the ice. That's the NHL. So sit here. If we're down a goal, you're going to go out there because we need a goal. But we don't need a goal. So the business side of that is so different for skilled players when they move up. So again, coaches, how they're making decisions, we need to win, okay? Or not lose. Keep the game tight. So what are you doing to help us win? And I can tell you as a head coach in the NHL and observing it for decades, and I had a hard time with this. Casey Middleston was a player I really didn't know. I knew he was a great USA Hockey player. I was at the national team program. He wasn't there. But now I'm coaching him in Buffalo, and I don't see the skill he has because he's giving up size, strength, and experience at the NHL level. And I go in there as an assistant. I'm like, I know this kid's good, but he can't impose his will on the game. Everybody's older, bigger, stronger, and more experienced in it. So I actually went back and studied his film wearing a USA jersey and at the University of Minnesota to try to figure out, what is his skill set. So I knew where I could get him. Because at the NHL level, I can see, and coaches can see, how that young player is going to lose us a game. As soon as I put him on the ice, he faces the puck the wrong way, he turns his back to the play, he doesn't support the play, doesn't move up and sequence with your team. This guy's going to lose us a hockey game faster than he's going to help us. So get him back here. And, your general manager, they saw him, they drafted him, they loved him at the previous level, but you're making that decision in that moment. And it's so easy and fast for you to see how a young guy is going to lose you a hockey game. Now, your older players have been in the league, so you know them. You're familiar. Okay, I can put this guy out in this situation. Alex Ovechkin, I don't need him. We're up by a goal. Jay Beagle, I know he'll block shots for us. We're up by the goal. I'll put him out there. So those are how decisions are made. If you can educate your guys on them, great. So reality versus perceptions. We're always dealing with perceptions. Everybody has perceptions, different ones. So I'm on the third line. That's the reality. I'm on the third line. The player is on the third line. The perception might be, I'm getting screwed, right? The coach hates me, or this is going to ruin everything for me. I'm on the third line. This is in the NHL, too. This is exactly what happens in the NHL. I'm not telling you anything that you are not dealing with reality, the guys on the third line. You're dealing with his perception. He thinks he's getting screwed. So what's going to happen? What's the body language going to be like? He's going to withdraw effort probably. So he's confused maybe. But you're dealing with that every day. So assess that with your team, address that. I didn't make the team is a good one. My future's ruined. I mean, that happens all the time at youth level. I talked to Bob Mancini about Vincent, and that happened through his career, but he never looked at it, my future's ruined. He just battled right through it. It never bogged him down. And that's great winning habits. I made the team. Now let's reverse it. Because I told the kids day one, when they made the National Development Team program, pulled them in the classroom, I said, how can a kid that didn't get selected 2 weeks ago or a month ago pass you guys up in 2 years? And made them answer the question. Because if you think you've arrived, you haven't. You've never arrived. We've never arrived as coaches. You got to get better every day. Here's influences that are going on. It's peers, it's friends, it's whatever. That's what's the battle. So we talk about influences. We're battling these influences. And all of these influences are affecting the player's mindset. Where his mind is, then he's going to believe it. Like I said, I believe I'm getting screwed because I'm on the third line. Because his mind's on that. And then his attitude, and then his habits. Okay? So they have support and they have influence. So support might be family, might be your advisor. They're all influencing you too. And then the organization, the climate, the culture, these are all influencing the players, okay? And we are in the battle with all of them as coaches. You guys know it as youth coaches. I'm gonna move into confidence here. So I would always tell coaches, you have to have the psyche in order. So all the systems, everything you want to do, everything I want to do as coach, when I took over the Sabres and we're in the midst of a big losing streak, number one, I got to get the psyche in order. Doesn't matter what I want. It doesn't matter what I implement. That psyche's got to be in order. When it's not, you got to recognize it, you got to fix it immediately, or you're not going anywhere. Confidence. I always tell players, you didn't lose it, especially when you move up a level. Your confidence was at the previous level. You had no confidence up at this level because you never played here. So how do we get it? And the concepts that Greg went over, a player can't take systems to the next level. You go play for a different coach. Who cares if you know that coach's systems? But the concepts he brought up, you take those with you to the next level. You do. Self-image, I'm going to skip this, and I'm going to go, Fish, what do I got in time? Do you know? Just a couple minutes? Okay. Let me zip through and get to some development. Real quick on this, so teach. If you think about it, you want to teach, I want to teach you. That's really not developing. So this is right from the dictionary. To teach is to show or explain to someone how to do something. Let me show you how to do this. If you're doing that more as a coach, I mean, you have to do some of that as a coach, but that cannot be your MO. It can't be. To develop is to grow or cause someone to grow, mature, advance, and I'll elaborate. You can tell how long I've been doing this. This is from 2009. 350 goal scorers, 3 totally different skill sets, skate different, pass different, shoot different. The only 350 goal scorers in the league that year. They did it different ways, okay? So back to systems or development, which one are you devoted to? And I'm gonna skip. Now, I'm not going to tell you where these came from yet, but I'll tell you in a slide or two. Just read the underlines, because we only have a minute or so. Can you see them or not?
No.
Oh, no? Okay. So these were text messages. I text messaged just a couple days ago when I arrived here. I thought, you know what? I'm going to ask guys I coached 10 years ago at the national team program. Tell me what I should present to you guys in this room. Tell me what I should say to you coaches in this room. What do you remember and what advice do you have? So they actually came up with what they remembered. Some talked about it. So one of the players said, these kids nowadays are taught so much about systems and they practice that, and the coaches just want to win the Pee Wee Silver Sticks instead of letting the kids learn to have fun. Another one said, we hardly ever went over a 1-2-2 neutral zone, and we didn't, but they knew it. I mean, they did it. We went over it on film. We didn't have to go over it on practice, waste practice time. Also, little details it gave us 3-on-2, something I still use today with my line mates, and this guy's been in the NHL making millions. Next one was far right there. Was great how many games we played throughout practices. I loved how we were always working off the man, make quick decisions and quick moves. So next one, so that was all practices. Those three of those guys or four of those guys gave me stuff on practices. The next set of guys gave me stuff on like feeling good, confidence, okay? And for me as a coach, if I haven't already said it, number one for me, some coaches want their teams to be fast. Some teams want to be coached, they want their identity to be physical. What I always have wanted my team to be is confident. Confident, with a little bit of swagger. That's number one for me. And you can kind of see it in these notes here. So again, it was an open question to all of these guys, and three of them came up with the belief you had in me might not have had the same belief in myself. Okay, the next one was, you always believed in me, even though it never turned me with confidence. And the last one was the same thing, balance and compassion. So, the guys that I text messaged, the 6 guys that were named the Olympic team, all 6 of them I had at the national team program. So I text them and a couple other guys that are probably going to be on the Olympic team that were on the Four Nations team as well. And those were some of the quotes I got back. The other ones fit right in there, comments. But that was the group I posed those questions to, saying, I'm going to stand in front of you guys today. Help me help you guys. Okay? I'll end it there because it looks like I got 1 minute left. And there's nothing I talk about for 1 minute fish. It's usually 3. All right. But again, thank you for everything.
All right, couple questions. You won't have a hard time with this one. Talk about watching your sister become one of the original heroes of American women's ice hockey and motivated countless girls to try the sport.
2 things come to mind there as you say that. One is she deserved it because she worked hard and was committed, and she gives back. She's always been very gracious with her time and giving back, and we beat the hell out of her as older brothers. We did. And we were very unfair to her, and she never had any, she honestly never had any idea how good she was. And I talk about, you know, I was born into the family I was, and the benefit for me is I could talk to Cammie Granato every day, who had lots of pressure on her, dealt with lots of injuries, lots of expectations, and lots of times on the phone, she would tell me, you know, I'm not that good of a hockey player, and that was just the way she grew up with us. Like I said, we pounded her every day. We needed her as the 4th. She was the youngest of 4 hockey players in our family to play the game 2-on-2. So it was in the basement, in the yard, in the garage. And like I said, you know, we're young boys. We don't know how hard we're hitting somebody or, you know, battling. And she'd be trying to run up the stairs and cry to mom, and we'd grab her by the ankle. You cannot go upstairs. The game's going to be over. Get your ass back down here. And she would, and she'd do it. So, yeah, I'm pretty proud of her, obviously, and I've also enjoyed the ride with her, too.
Awesome. Yeah, what a great career she had and is continuing to have now in management in the NHL. When are we going to see, how long before we see a female head coach in the NHL?
Well, it's going to happen at some point. How long, I don't know. But I know, I love the advancements with at the pro side with the women's hockey. And I think that pushes that trend. But when I talk and speak with women in the game, they are good, really good. So I'm very impressed with their perspective and feel for, you know, the X's and O's have become so easy now. Ever since it went digital on the computer, you can watch and get analytics and data, but the feel, the art of coaching now. There's an art to coaching that you never needed. You had a hammer, and I've met so many great female coaches that have just a great feel for what's going on. And so I think it's inevitable.
One last one, great question here. Is there a path to college or pro hockey for a coach who never played at a high level? Can you get to be a college or pro coach if you didn't play at a high level?
Of course you can, of course, yeah, there's no doubt, and you shouldn't have any doubt. It comes down to, you know, the work, knowledge, commitment. There's coaches in the National Hockey League, lots of us. I didn't play in the NHL, obviously. Played in the minors and took my lumps, but there's coaches in the NHL that didn't. The NFL, tons of coaches that didn't play in the NFL, so don't let that be a barrier. Pardon me?
John Cooper, maybe?
Yeah, John Cooper comes to mind for sure.
Yeah. How,
He's not a bad coach either, by the way.
He's pretty good, yeah. He's pretty good. How do you do it though? I mean,
Relationships, but I mean, you've got to make sure you're better. Whatever team you're with, make those kids better. Stick to what we've said here in this thing. If you're coaching a team right now, develop those players. Help those players become better. You're going to become better in the process. And if you can do that, the next team is going to want you to come work for them. So there's very few jobs I had to interview. People just saw the work you did. So they see the work you did, and they call you. And that happens at every level. So,
Don Granado, everybody. Thank you very much.